The face of hunger in the 21st century. Weighing barely more than a newborn, this young girl shows the sign of what is likely to come for many, for millions. 40 years after a famine in Ethiopia became one of the 20th century's worst humanitarian events, children in the Afar region are again going hungry.
There seems no end to this drought. For the last 3 years, there was no rain and I lost a lot of livestock, which is my source of income. Now we're entirely dependent on food distribution.
Now, 34 heads of state gathered in Senegal at the Food Africa Summit have pledged to invest in agriculture. It's part of an event organized by the African Development Bank to end hunger in Africa by 2030.
The solution to Africa's food problem is not food aid. Africa should not go around with bowl in hand asking for food. Africa should be putting seeds in the ground and grow its own food. And not only feed itself, Africa is sitting today on 65% of all the remaining uncultivated arable land in the world. And so that is not in Europe, that's not in Asia, that's not in Latin America, it's in Africa. So what Africa does with agriculture will determine the future of food in the world.
If there is one thing I have always asked myself is, how can a continent like Africa, with all its resources, with all its fertile lands, still be facing a food crisis? Because everyone has come to realize that Africa is the best continent. Africa is the richest continent, and Africa has the best soil that is good for food cultivation. But you will ask yourself that how come many people in Africa cannot still afford 1 square meal? How come many people in Africa are starving, are dying in huge numbers? There is famine in many countries in Africa, and food is becoming very, very expensive. In fact, almost half of what we consume in Africa is being imported from Asia and Europe. But yet still, we have the best soil that is good for cultivating food crops. What is really the problem? Why can't we cultivate our own crop? Why can't we make sure that Africa becomes the food basket of the world? Why can't we make sure that other countries can start importing food from Africa? Because if you take example of countries like China, Japan, Korea, that really do not have good fertile soil, they are still able to export many food crops all over the world. Thailand is also a great exporter of rice. We all know that these countries do not have the kind of quality soil that we have in Africa. But yet still, they are able to produce enough food for their people and also export part of it. Africa must wake up. Africa really, really has to wake up. Africa has got a lot of potentials. Africa must start doing what they have to do to make sure that we do not keep on going hungry. So this initiative by these African countries to make sure they can fight against food insecurity in Africa is a very, very great move that I personally applaud. I think that we can all continue in this direction and we can all try our best to eradicate food insecurity in Africa. And I know that this is a good food in the right direction. But I also believe that more effort and dedication must be put in to make sure that we can actually achieve this objective. Because most too often, leaders in Africa will put forth a very, very significant objective or a very, very good plan of something they want to do. But getting it done is the biggest problem. They have great ideas, but actually implementing those ideas have been Africa's biggest problem. So my hope and my dream is that this one that they have put in place, this objective that has been put in place, will be executed. And Africa can finally conquer food insecurity, so that all those people who are starving in Ethiopia can finally have something to eat. All those people who are starving in Somalia can finally have enough food to eat. Or all those people who are starving in Sudan can have enough food to eat. And Africa as a whole can have more than enough to eat. Going hungry in the 21st century, it's not a good thing at all. We should not be experiencing food shortages in Africa. People do not need to go hungry in Africa. So I want to use this opportunity to applaud this excellent initiative that African countries have put together. And I wish them all the best in executing this objective. But to you guys out there, my fellow viewers of the channel, what do you think about this initiative by African countries to fight food insecurity in the continent? Let us know in the comment section below, because like always, we love to hear what you have to say. And thank you very much for doing just that. And like always, see you in the next one.